Hi guys, I'm Samson Amaugo and I'm a tech enthusiast. I love learning, automating stuff, and growing businesses using tech solutions. So in today's presentation, I'll be talking about managed identities, specifically in Azure Web App Service. So What is Azure Managed Identity? So this is a feature that helps to ease the process of identity management and authorization in Azure. And okay, let's look at this. Sometimes when you're trying to access a protected resource in Azure using APIs, you might need to go through the steps of creating an application in Azure Active Directory and then using the application to retrieve tokens which you could use to make requests to obtain maybe some services or hit an API in the protected resource in Azure. But with the aid of managed identity, this process is taken away and handled in Azure automatically. You don't have to worry about all the whole authorization process involved. And there are two types of managed identities. We have system assigned managed identities, and user assigned managed identities. Now, in system assigned managed identities, these are the identities that are created directly on the service, and its life cycle is tied to the lifetime of the service. So that means once the service, let's say Azure Web App Service, once you delete the Azure Web App Service, you're also deleting the managed identity. Now let's look at some of the features of system assigned identity. As I said earlier on, they are created as part of a resource and it is not managed separately. So that means the once you once you delete the resource that you're trying to create that managed identity on, once you delete it, the managed identity is also deleted automatically and it can only be tied to one resource. Now here, each life cycle is bounded together with the resource that was created on. It still um, references the previous feature. And finally, other resources can share its identity. So that means for system assigned managed identities, it can only be created for a single resource. You can't use that same identity to grant access or identify another resource. It's just unique to a single resource. Then we have the user assigned identity. So user assigned identity, this identity is created separately and has its life cycle tied to itself. It's to use it, you would need to assign it to any. This is a mistake. You need to assign it to any Azure service of your choice that supports Azure AD. And you could get into the features of user assigned managed identity. So one of them is created as a distinct identity resource in Azure. So let's say you want to create an identity for an Azure Web App Service and you need to create a managed identity. Well, when you're trying to utilize the user assigned managed identity, you have to create it separately. It's independent of the resource you're trying to use it on. Then another one is its life cycle is separate from the resource it will be assigned to. So that means deleting the resource doesn't imply that the user assigned identity would be deleted. And we have another one, which is the final one. Other resources can share its identity. So that means you could create a user assigned identity and use it in 3 or 4 Azure Web App Service or any Azure service that supports Azure AD. So let's get coding. So I'll be creating a web app in, let me call it managed identity. I'm creating a web app using .NET, ASP.NET Core. So .NET new web API. So this will scaffold the boilerplate for me, and I'll open it in VS Code. Okay, just to make my code short, I would let me just delete this file. We don't need it. Move to recycle bin. And for this one, we don't need it as well. Yeah. Okay, before that, so for this tutorial, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh no. Seems like I don't know why this is not zooming. This worked before. Okay, right. So I'll be making use of two packages from Nuget for this. I'll be making use of Azure Identity Nuget, which I'll have installed. All right, and I'll also be making use of the key votes, Azure key vote secrets. Yeah, I'm making use of this Nuget package as well. I don't need this. Okay, so back to the code. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to create a basic API that allows me to retrieve protected, highly confidential details from Azure Key Vault. And when developing to obtain my required tokens, I'll be making use of Azure Identity for that. So there's a class called default Azure credentials. So it helps me to retrieve my tokens and use my identity automatically during local development. It could also be used in production as well. So let me just scrape out this. It's not really relevant. And I'll call in my packages. Azure.identity. And here, yeah. Next. Yeah, so next I would set up my create builder application. Just create builder apps, although there is no apps. Okay, I already have it here. Okay, so next I'll build my application. First to builder dot build, and I'll just create an endpoint using map-get, the root endpoint. I'll make it async. Put a colon here. Now I want it to be in a state. I want it to give me two results. It's either it gives me the result from the key vote, or it tells me, sends a string to the client telling me can't receive secrets. So I'll just create a try and get block, a try and catch block. So just in case it doesn't work, I want it to return can't receive secret. Okay, so for here, I want to create my URI. So let my URI be, I'll get it from my configuration, which I've not yet set up. So it will be new URI user dot configuration, and I want to obtain it using the kv key, which means the URI of my key vault. Next, I'll create my clients, new secret client, then I could pass in my URI. Then for me to automatically obtain the tokens to authenticate into Azure, I'll make use of the default Azure credential. So this class makes it very easy when dealing with authorization and authentication to Azure service. So I'll return await client get secret async. I want to store a value in key vault with the key. I want to store a secret called school in Azure key vault, and I want to return that value. Okay, so this one is crying, and just put this exclamation mark. So that should be inside. Yeah. So here I could set my KV. I'm yet to obtain this URL from Azure, so I'd have to create a key vault resource in Azure. So let me do that. Okay, so let me create a group, for a resource group for my resources. So I'll call it managed identity group. And yeah, I think that is okay. Let me create the group. Go to resource group. Then I'll click on create to create a key vault resource. So I'll type key vault. Oh no, this is not what I'm looking for. Yeah. So I'll create a key vault in my managed resource, my managed identity group. Let me call it swag. Yeah, let that be swag key vault. I don't really care about all these extra settings. So I'll click on review and create. And I'll click on review and create. So going back to the web application, let's check, is deploying now. The keyword is being deployed. So let's just ensure that the web application is up and running. Let me run this first. So I'll type .net run. It take a while to build. Okay, so if I'm to run this, currently it's telling me can't receive secret, and that is because I haven't yet set this URL for my keyboard. So it errors out and tells me can't receive secret. So we just need to wait a little bit for, okay, deployment is complete. So let's go to the resource. So now this URL will give me access to my keyboards with the help, with the aid of the default credentials, default Azure credentials, right? Let me see if I'm right. Yeah, with the help of the default Azure credential class. So now that I have that URL, I can paste it in my settings. Yeah, then let me try and rerun this application. Okay, I'm not yet set. Remember earlier on, I wanted to access this school secrets from keyboard. So let me create it first. So I'll go to secrets, then I'll click on generate. Let me call this school. Now let me put the name of my school, Federal University of Technology, Owerri. Then I'll create. So now that it has been created, let's see if this application would be able to print that this time around. So I'll just have to refresh the page to take a while. Let's give it some time. Yeah, so here we go. We have the Federal University of Technology Owerri secrets being displayed on the browser. So that means it's working. So now the problem is why I have access to my key vault is because this default Azure credential checks various locations in my local system for an authorization token, and I already have my Azure CLI logged in on my system, so it's using the details of my Azure CLI to access that. And if I could go to the browser here, if I go to access policies of my keyboard, you would see that, so this is my email, this is my default email for Azure. So this is what my CLI uses. So by default, the default Azure credential class makes use of this user's ID to access my key vault. So now the problem is, if I'm to deploy this application now to Azure, which identity would the deployed application use to access my key vault? So that is where managed identity comes in. So if I'm to do that without my identity, what I have to do is to create an application in Azure AD and then make use of the secret tokens and secret key of the application to make API calls to the Azure Key Vault endpoint to retrieve my credentials, my protected credentials. But the aid of this class, I don't need to go through that process. The only thing I have to bother about now is how to set up an identity in the deployed application. So let's create a web application service on Azure. Going back to the group, I would create I'll create a web application, web app. Yeah, so I'll create this. Let me call it Swag Identities. I'll select the runtime. .NET 7, Linux. Yeah. That's fine. Then I'll create the resource. Case validating rather. Okay. It's actually creating the resource. Nice. This will take some time, which would have to wait a little bit. Mm, Let me duplicate this tab so that I could be doing something else on Azure. Okay, yeah, so we have our web app service available. So I want to make use of local kits to deploy my application. Um, Deployment center. So I'll click on FTPS credentials because I want to make use of kits, local kits to deploy. Alright, so let me just create. Okay, let me create a password here. I'll use this credential to authorize my kit to push to the local git here on Azure. So let me save it. To take a while to save. Cool. All right. So let me get the endpoints, the git endpoint, local git endpoints. Save it. All right. So here is the git endpoint. So next I would let me stop the server. So git init, git add, git commit, created project. Now git remote and origin. So I want to push the master branch. Git push origin master. Cool. So it has been pushed to Azure Web App Service. Okay. Let's take a while. So it's kind of building the project on Azure. Yeah, so it has been deployed. Now, once we go back to Azure, let me scroll up. I'll click on overview to get the link. So this is the link. So if I click on it, I should be able to access the application. So currently, the deploy application is saying can't receive secrets, and the reason is because there is no authorized identity in the production environment on Azure. So that is where managed identity comes in. So to create a managed identity, a system. So I'm going to create two identities. So I'll start off by creating a system aside identity. So I'll click on identity here under settings. I'll turn on this status and save. So here is ID of the system assigned identity. I'll copy, then I'll go to, I want to assign that to my key vault. So I'll click on the key vault and then I'll click on access policies. I'll click on add access policy here to add that manage identity. I'll click on secrets. I'll just grant only the get permission for the secret, for the managed identity, for the system managed identity. So I'll click on select principal. I'll paste the principal ID. So we have Spike identities here. Select. I'll click on add. And here you see I only granted this my system assigned identity the get permission for secrets on this key vault. So if I'm to refresh this now, you would see that my application will be able to retrieve the secret from Azure Key Vault. So if I refresh this, this should work. Excuse me, my lightning fell off. It's not still working. So why isn't it working? Did I miss something? Oh, I didn't save. Sorry. So I have to save this. Okay, nice, nice. So it has been saved. So now if I'm to refresh, I should be able, my application should be able to retrieve the secret from Azure Key Vault. So if I refresh this, yeah, so we have Federal University of Technology Owerri. So that is that for system assigned identity, managed identity. So the thing with this one, this system assigned managed identity is if I delete my web app service, my web application, the identity will be automatically deleted as well. So next, let me remove this system assigned identity. Let me turn it off. So turning it off would disable it. So I'll turn it off and save. So now that I've disabled it, I shouldn't be able to retrieve federal. Okay, seems like this is cached. Yeah, I shouldn't be able to retrieve from key vault now. Should tell me can't receive secrets. Yeah. So next, let's create a user assigned identity and add it and grant it permission to my app service and the key vault. So let me go to my group. resource group. So why I like creating my resources in a resource group is so that after I'm done with the project, I could delete all the resources at once inside the group. So that is a good thing about making use of resource group to create resources in Azure. So I'll create a user assigned identity. Yes, I'll create this. Let me call it Swag user assigned. So I'll create it. It will take a while. So it's deploying. Oh, that was fast. So the resource has been created. So let me go to the resource. So you can see the object principal. So this is like a unique ID that's used to identify this user assigned identity. So now I could go back to my app service. Then under the settings panel in the identity menu, I'll click on user assigned. So this is where I can add my user assigned, Swag user assigned identity. So it automatically brought it out for me. Although I could also search for it by typing, I just type. So I have it here. Okay, so I'll click on add. And it should pop up here once it's done being added. Yeah, so we have it here. But now the problem is that this user doesn't have access to key vault. So if I'm to refresh this website, you still see it tells me can't receive secret. So the next step is to grant this user assigned managed identity access to my key vault. So I'll go to my key vault resource. Under access policies, I'll click on add access policy. I'll grant it get permission. Then I'll select the principal. Let me call it Swag. So Swag is assigned its name. I'll select it and I'll add it. Nice. Then don't forget to save after adding so that the effect can be propagated. So next, if I'm to refresh this website, you should have access to my keyboards. Why doesn't it have access? Am I making a mistake? Let me try again. So for some reason, it's not being, it doesn't seem to have access. Or am I missing something? Let me refresh this. Will I need to restart this application? Okay, let me try and restart my web app and see if that would enable it. Okay. For some reason, it doesn't have access. Swag user assigned identity. Hmm, that is weird. Let me check again. Manage identity. Okay. Let me remove it and add it again. Let me delete this one since we don't need it. And add again. Mm, okay. Let me try this. Save. Okay. Now let me try and refresh. Hmm. App service user assigned. Status. Did I do this the wrong way? That's weird. Secrets. School. Let me grant it all and see. But get should work. Mm, okay. Um, for some reason, I don't know why the user assigned identity is not working. Okay, let me delete this.
Sam, can you please represent your screen because it's frozen?
What? It's frozen?
Yeah, it's frozen. Could you please
Okay, let me share
represent?
my screen again. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let me delete this and add it again. Seems there is a bit of an issue.
Uh, I just want to add one thing that session is of 45 minutes and we are about to end, but we can edit it out if you are not done yet. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Look, thank you. So let's add the user as an identity. Let me add this. Okay. So now let me try and refresh this. Okay. Let me see something. Let me try and just add this config and see if it would build. Advanced tools, log circuits, configuration. Mm. Okay, let me try something. Let me try and just activate my system as an identity. Okay, let me refresh this. Mm, access policies. Delete this. Add it again. Okay, let me add the config. Let's kv because this maybe it's my review. Save. So the application will get to restart. Nice. Um, and let me add back access to secrets. So keys are assigned. Add. Then I'll click on save. Okay. Now let me try and refresh this application. For some reason, I think I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong.
So we can do one thing, Samson. I Instead of this last step, we can just edit it out. We won't go till this. The last, like we can just stop
Okay,
from where you
I
have started this
think
session.
I've discovered what I did wrong. Can we? Am I
Yeah,
am I free to like redeploy? Do you have the time?
yeah, we have, but the recording is also have them some space to store. Na? So we have only 1 hour max to record. So you have 15 minutes in like
Okay, yeah,
not
like
15.
you can crop out all those areas where I was trying to figure out the
As of
user.
now, like recording will be stopped at like when it will reach 1 hour, it will stop. As you can see, live 47:20 like so
Okay,
it will stop automatically at 59 59 like
okay,
that.
okay,
So if you want to retry, you can try. Otherwise, we can just stop it from here. Like you can come on the live slide of your PPT and like thank you for joining us, and you can do like
okay.
that way also. As per your convenience, I don't have any issues.
Okay, let me try and hurry up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the problem is that the default Azure credential class is still tied to the initial credential on Azure Web App Service. So I have to redeploy and start out first using user assigned identity. So I have to create another web app, user assigned identity. Hmm, yeah. So I'll create another resource. I'll select .NET 7, select Linux, and um, I'll create this. It will take a while to set up. Cool. So now I'll go to the deployment center. Well, let me add identity first. So I'll go to identity, I'll go to user assigned identities, and I'll assign this, add it. Nice. So I'll go to the deployment center. I'll click on local git. I'll click on FTPS credentials. Let me focus on self-managed 2. Then I'll save. Next, I would obtain my Git credential and redeploy to this web app. So I'll add a second remote. So I'll call it Git remote. Add. I'll just call this one Azure, and I'll do Git push Azure master. Mm, Okay, so it's pushing. It's take a while. Okay, so it's building. Nice. So going back to Azure, I'll click on overview. Then I'll click on the link here. Okay, I'll look into this. It's worked, but I don't know. Maybe I missed an important step. Okay. My slide. All right. So, at least you've gotten to see a glimpse of what system assigned identity is and user assigned identity is. I hope you enjoyed it. And all right. So we can connect via Twitter. My handle is Swagblooms. On LinkedIn, you can find me by searching Samson Amaugo, and my website is Swagblooms. Thanks, and I hope you learned a thing or two about managed identities in Azure. Bye.